You might be next door friend, don't worry.
Let's make a start. Meeting of the Human Resources Committee. Any apologies for absence?
Yes, I've received apologies from Councillor Williams, but Councillor Heritage is substituting for me.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest from anybody? No, thank you. Chairman's report and urgent items, I don't have any. Public questions? None. Minutes of the last meeting on the 23rd of September. Anybody got any comment from those, or sign them as an accurate record?
Chair, the items in blue are actually either reports or have previously been dealt with, and so unless anybody has any comments about the accuracy of those, can you sign them at the same time?
Is that okay? Yep. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and now move on to the officers' report. 6.1. Mr. Clark.
Yeah, Chair, I really don't have a great deal to add. If any members have got any comments or observations they wish to make at this time, then I'd be happy to hear them. But otherwise, it's a very good record. Nobody wants to know all about super fashions, nothing else. But,
It is, I was just going to say that. It's very good.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine. That's my comments. I think I'm right in saying that sickness absence in the public sector is slightly higher than that in the private sector from what they've been looking at district. At least we're below the average, so that's not too bad.
I think it's a compliment to the people.
Thank you.
Any comments at all? Observations?
Yep.
No. Okay, thank you very much. I think we just note that report. Yeah, let's note that. And on to staffing arrangements for events.
Yeah, Chair, this is slightly more involved, and I thought it was necessary to bring it to your attention so that you are aware of the issues when decisions are being taken relating to events and event organisation. As members will be aware, we're a relatively, believe it or not, lean, mean machine downstairs, and at certain times of the year additional pressures are put on a very small number of staff. I have a concern with particularly things like the Christmas Carnival, if I could use that as a particular example, and I don't sit comfortably with the fact that a member of staff, which shouldn't really mention in public, but Heather, is working the best hour of 14 hours in a day. That can't be right. And similarly, the farmers market officer is working the best part of 14 hours. And so I'm looking at a way that we can manage that more efficiently. One of them is to look at finding volunteers is becoming more and more challenging for any of the events. And as we know, the Christmas Carnival was originally, as Councillor Weaver will be able to testify, was originally organised by volunteers. It was Harpenden first, and then it became the Christmas Carnival Committee that was external to the Town Council, and it was volunteers that generally drove that particular agenda. However, 2 years ago they turned around and said, look, we're finding it more demanding, more difficult, and so they've taken a step back, which has left a bit of a vacuum, and a lot of the obligation placed on work that they did has fallen on officers of the Town Council. There was a slight hiccup last year. I hold my hand up. Somebody went off on leave and at a critical time, which I don't think was very helpful, and should have been managed better, but these things happen, as they say. However, I think a solution might be to see if we can find, and there's no guarantee with this, if we can find almost a reserve list of people who would be prepared to come forward and help out, but not just as volunteers, actually be paid. We're looking at paying pretty much the minimum wage. And I'm suggesting that over a period of all of the events that we currently organise, that it shouldn't exceed somewhere in the region of £500. So it's not exactly going to put you in a financial difficulty or hole, as it were. But I do think you need to look at this. You need to give me your observations. You know, I want to understand what your thoughts are, and also, you know, the best way forward, so that I can make arrangements accordingly.
Could I just point out, I just realised actually, I've got a bit of an interest because I'm a volunteer in Larks and the Parks and the Baptist Light stuff. So, do you want me to leave the room, or may I? You know?
I think it's a personal, but it's not a pecuniary.
Sorry, I didn't realise.
No, that's fine. No, when it becomes apparent now,
yeah.
that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Mary first.
I think that is a very good suggestion, and I think it's one that we should certainly think about. But I think we may need to look more strategically at what we're doing at events and what is actually happening. It's this balance between officer time, councillor time, volunteer time, and somebody paid to do the job time. And if I run through the summer carnival, for example, I'm not sure what's happened over the years, but I think that's probably gone up. Am I right, John? Or is it because it's been...
It's always been quite intensive for the Town Council. It started off as Discovery Day, and that was literally run by the Town Council.
So in other words, it's something we've always done. It's just we've wrapped it into a summer carnival.
We have, yeah.
So there's an understanding there. Armed Forces Day, I can understand, could pretty much rerun that to a very great extent.
Again, looking forward, I'm hoping that some of the responsibility for the Armed Forces Day will rest more with the Royal British Legion, who are minding that particular activity.
That is their day.
It is their day. They've taken responsibility and ownership for it. Yeah. And they are now looking for some...
young volunteers.
Well, they've got volunteers in the sense that they've got all cadet groups. So, you know, it was occasioned when I, just as interested, you know, when I first was involved with the Armed Forces Day, and I was approached by the British Legion because Anne will remember Dave Daniels. He was the one who actually started it, got funding for it from central government, and he ran it for 2 years, and then in the third year he came to me and said, sorry, I beg your pardon, he went to the chairman of the Royal British Legion branch, who was Don Shuttleworth, and Don came and saw me and said, can we help, just give some administrative support. They still had some funds left from Dave Daniels' application, so they utilised some of that. But it's always been a British Legion event. And when I came out and just helped them on the Sunday, the initial Sunday of the event, you know, it was a case of driving around with the stakes and the pins, and the tape, so that they could section off the triangle and so on and so forth. It was fairly rudimentary, but it has grown since then, and there has been an awful lot more on-the-day presence required by our staff. I'm hoping that we'll be able to go back to the British Legion and say, oh, you've got to take more responsibility. If you're calling this your event, you've got to take responsibility for it.
Councillor Weir first.
If I move on, I haven't finished.
Oh, okay, sorry.
If I move on, Larks in the Parks, that is actually a district event, and district have made a very strong point that it shouldn't be run by other councils. It should be actually run by volunteers, and that they only give it support if it's run by volunteers. So why are we doing it?
Well, we've been involved in assisting the BCAG with some of the organisation where
my understanding is that And last year, having spoken to the people running it here, who are running, and having spoken to BCAG organisers, the people here running it say they're doing the majority of organising in terms of the physical infrastructure of the day. But at the same time, BCAG are saying, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing all of this. Now, there is an issue there.
Yeah, hang on, I think we're going to take it. I think we're going to take everyone.
I'll come back, yeah.
We've got three people on that side.
If we move on, the textile picnic we do, and it's well beloved in the area. We're stopping doing food and drink festival anyway. The Christmas carnival, clearly we need more volunteers for that, because you know
there's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work, and it's councillors and hardly anybody from outside is stepping up to this. So we have to go out and find people. And the South Down and Batford Lights Up have become a bit uncontrolled, both of them, in the sense that it's not quite clear who's responsible for what. And there were clear health and safety implications what happened last Christmas.
I think that...
I mean, it was our event.
I think, Chair,
but it was held
clear.
in a venue that was far too small and was crowded and had many, many children where it could have been dangerous if anything had gone wrong.
But that wasn't the switch on.
Yeah, I know, but they called it the switch on.
That's not our event. Our event is literally the switching on of the lights, organising the lights and switching on the lights, same South End. And we work very closely with the traders there. And in the past, the BCAG have taken responsibility for putting on the entertainment, as it were, and the fair type activities associated with the event. The BCAG
okay,
has taken that responsibility.
Can I ask John, if there'd been a fire in that hall and 20 kids had died, yeah, and given it's advertised as the town council come at BCAG event, who would have been carrying the can?
BCAG?
Yeah, it really would have been BCAG.
And what insurance did you have? What third-party insurance did you have in case of accident? If the parents had come to you and claimed against losing their kid's life, what would have happened?
Well, I must admit, I don't know, because I don't deal with that, but
you're a committee member of BCAG,
yeah.
So how can you let, as a councillor and a committee member of BCAG, how can you allow an event like that to occur when you're not sure what the insurance is?
Let's go back a bit, okay? We had to reorganise on the day because there were gale force winds. Okay, so rather than have masses of people turn up, which could have been even worse if we carried on with our, we had risk assessments in place, so if we carried on that corner in those conditions, yes, I would imagine there could have been an awful accident, and I'm not quite sure, probably it would have been the town council because they own that land. However, we took a decision, which was last minute, to rearrange it and put it in the hall. You know, fortunately, so it didn't disappoint all those people that were coming there. Okay, so, yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know, actually, because it was done on that morning, and I wasn't involved in that. I think I recall I was doing the weight of the ginger cake, so that wasn't my field. I'm just a volunteer in that respect.
Okay.
I don't mastermind the whole thing.
Okay, but I think the point I'm making stands.
We'll make sure.
Well, I think we've gone off the track slightly here.
Yeah,
I don't think we should be raising fingers and blaming.
We're talking about who is responsible for what, and where we get the actual resources to do things. And what we're saying is more volunteers. I think we have to be very, very clear about what we are doing, what we're not doing, and what our responsibility is.
Particularly if we're using volunteers, yes. Now I've got Michael, your point, and David.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, I want to back up what John was going to go. If I can concentrate just on the Christmas Carnival and what has happened there. Indeed, an awful lot of work has now fallen in the last couple of years on council stuff, and this has got to be looked at. Trying to quantify some figures here, we had probably, on just taking the day on its own, probably had 4 councillors who would probably work about 25 hours total. Now, some of those will continue. People like me will probably work on, but we have people like Nick Ellis and others doing things. We also had about 4 volunteers who really work flat out. And again, another, you could throw a figure of 25 hours. We're talking about 50 hours of actual work that was done. That's on the actual day, but there are others in the build-up that was done. Those same 6 to 8 people were doing work. So all I can say is, yes, it really has to be looked at, and I think it's got to be budgeted in for. And I just queried whether I mean, as you put in here, the full fees is 550. I think we might have to allow a little bit more than that, actually, personally.
Well, I'm wholly supportive of this initiative. I think more should be done for the community in this town, and I think if we can't, I think the burden of responsibility falls on officers, and that's not their particular job. It should be volunteers, but we're all busy people. We can't spend half our life volunteering for all the things we'd like to. I know I would, however, I can't. So yes, I think we should represent the town. If providing the activity or the event is well supported by members of the public, and these have grown, they've grown legs. Larks in the Parks, yes, it is a district event, but it is massive now. It is absolutely massive, and again, the burden of responsibility is put on how many of us? There's about 6 of us. It's a horrendous responsibility. Can you imagine? There was over about 1,000 people that came there. All the organisation, the whole day, you spend the whole day there, from about 6 o'clock in the morning until sort of like 10 o'clock at night. You know, as a volunteer, it takes its toll. So yes, we would, welcome more responsibility. Just because it's a district event, it doesn't mean anything. It's a community event for Harpenden, and people come to it, and that's what they want to see their councils do. So yes.
David.
Point of clarification, Chair. The Legion yesterday had its AGM, of which 3/4 of the outgoing committee did not turn up, including the chairman. A new committee was sworn in yesterday. They have their first meeting tonight to decide what they can support or what else they can do for this coming year, including Armed Forces Day and Remembrance Sunday. So I'll be able to pass more information on to you after the meeting tonight.
Yes, and we've still got to resolve, or if we can resolve, this business with Chris Gray.
Yeah, that is one to raise tonight.
Because, he turned up with a team of volunteers and he organised a very, very good,
Excellent.
I thought it was very good anyway, Armed Forces Day, and because of some disagreement between him and the Legion committee, he's not doing that anymore.
Obviously, that committee no longer exists.
True. But the institution exists. Its successor.
Yes.
So, anyway, so we've got to resolve that. Any other points, sir?
Yeah.
Sorry, come on.
I'm supportive, obviously, of this. I see it's a good idea to reduce the strain on the regulars who normally do it from downstairs.
Yeah.
Having said that, can you manage casual payments without tax and all that? And how about third-party indemnity? Is it going to be a bit of a...
I'm
Is
afraid...
it a challenge?
I'm afraid the opportunity for brown envelopes is nil.
No.
This will have to go through the payroll, and we will have to pay people accordingly. There's no alternative.
It will be a casual payment to them, won't it?
Yes.
Which they declare, if it's up to them and declare on their...
They will have to go on the payroll.
And how about the insurance angle? Are they officially agents working for us?
Yeah, effectively, yes. Any volunteer is covered by our insurance.
Right.
So Project Day volunteers are all covered by our insurance.
Yeah.
So I think you'll find actually that the BCAG will hold a form of insurance that covers you through public liability, and almost certainly, if you are doing something on behalf of BCAG, you will be insured by them. I would be very surprised.
It would be mad not to.
I can't believe that's not the case.
First of all, just on Bert's point here, in fact, even if it's a casual labour payment, there's one particular tax form you send in at the end of the year, which we have to declare the name, address, the amount of money we paid, and the national insurance number. That has to go. So even if it's gross payments and it's under a certain figure, you still have to. Second, what I really wanted to say was how important I think these events are, all these events. The Christmas Carnival attracted, the police said, and it was very difficult to quantify, 15,000 people input. And this is, it's not just the vitality of the high street, because some shops own some, but it is that. But it's something so key to the community. The community wants us to do these things. If that sort of number of people are coming, we knock St Albans into the shade actually with it. So what John has produced, I think is fine. But I just think we must go further. And backing up what Anne has said, I think we've got to look at it very seriously and not sort of penny pinch on this one.
I was just going to say that in each of these, if other groups are working with us, they are carrying the responsibility, whether it's some carnival or Laps in the Parks or the South Down Lights Up, we should be getting copies of their insurance just to ensure that they actually have it.
We do. We do.
So we could look at that and just check.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I think I agree. These events are important to the town. They're very well attended, subject to the weather, of course, but generally they are very well attended. Certainly the Christmas Carnival, I mean, I've never seen so many people.
That was wrong.
And when I left, I went round and talked to a lot of the stall holders, and they all seem to be doing well. And when I left, all the sort of cafes and pubs and restaurants on the high street seem to be heaving with people, which is, great for the town. So, yes, I agree. Do we think there's a core of volunteers out there that we can tap into?
Well, the only core volunteers, well, not volunteers, I beg your pardon, no. The problem with
paid volunteers,
paid casuals, as it were. If we go down that route, then I must confess, I would suggest one of the first ports of call might well be the schools, to see if there are any 18-year-olds in the upper 6th area. I get used to that. It's year 13 or something now, I don't know. And seeing if they are, that age group could take some responsibility, and also they could do a job for us, and they would be interested just earning some additional money. They would still be paid through the payroll, but they wouldn't be taxed. That's the other thing. So it would be well worth their while. However, if we could get a nucleus of 2 or 3 more senior people who would be interested in coming in and helping out, I think that would be very advantageous, because they could take on almost an additional responsibility, if you like, because of their maturity.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly do that with the market, don't they, in St Albans? There's quite a lot of casual staff who, set it up and take it down again. So that's
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what do we need to do here? Any other points, or can we go to the recommendations? Okay. Well, that's it. Anybody's got any comments? So I'd take 2.1.1 to 2.1.3.
These are all recommendations to council, Chair. So other members of the council will have an opportunity to raise any issues.
So I just mentioned because I've talked on it again. I thought I wouldn't mind the figure being increased actually around some figure of £1,000 rather than it said the additional. If that was very good.
We're very happy. I suppose it depends what it actually
turns
out to be.
So that's £1,000.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So with that change, are we happy to recommend to resolve to the council?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more recommendation be added, that we look at our involvement in the different and specify exactly how we're involved at the moment,
and what we're going to do with each one.
And what we're going to do with each one.
Chair, I don't think that needs to be recommended to council. This could be a decision that you're making today and that you're asking me to take forward and report back to this committee Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yes, let's look into that one.
Because it's, you know,
We
there's
agree
different
what we
activities.
do and what any volunteer organisation that we're working with does.
And maybe try to standardise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So, is that agreed by everybody, Chair? Thank you.
Okay. Right. Next one. New state pension scheme and changes to national insurance. Not much to say. is
No,
there?
there isn't, Chair. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, in particular,
Statutory,
it is, I'm afraid.
Really.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about really here.
No.
Shall we just note this one? Okay, everybody okay with noting? Right, next one, auto enrolment. I think this is
Again,
a legislative.
it is, and what we're suggesting, because virtually all our staff are those who are already in the pension scheme, and then it was a case of they still had to opt out rather than elect to come in. We're with the local government pension scheme, and we're asking members to agree that any future pension provider is the local government pension scheme.
Okay. Now, as I understand it, the way these things work elsewhere is you get automatically enrolled, and then you've got a certain amount of time to sort of say, well, I don't want to be enrolled, and I'm going to come out. And it's a foolish decision, really, but for quite a few low-paid people, say on banks, in care and support, in housing associations, things of that kind, it's expected that a fair amount of people like that will not, will come out, will opt out, simply because they can't afford it.
We have had that here before, haven't we?
Oh, we've got staff who are
we've
wanting,
got that.
yeah, absolutely.
There was I'm just sort of vaguely remembering something about somebody who thought they had signed something or they hadn't signed it, and then they were in when they wanted to be out, and vice versa. So it's just...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're talking about somebody on the information point, and there was some confusion. They had clearly signed the reference to opt-in to be pensioned, as it were, and it was evident from the paperwork that we'd got, but the government pension scheme or the funding authority hadn't recognised that, and we had to go back. You're absolutely right.
Okay, but this is basically statutory.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a noting. I don't think there's anything we can do anything about this. So, okay to note this?
Well, I think we got to...
It's resolved to...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Switch off.
Right, now moving to exempt business.
Do you want me to shut the door or leave it open? There's nobody around. And that's it.